Hi guys, this is Mrs. Kohlfarber, and if you missed our live Google Meet today, that's okay because we are going to do the study guide together. You can either print this out, or if you don't have a printer, then just go to the back of your workbook, one of those blank pages, and work these problems together with me there. I promise you there will be questions just like this on our test for Unit 4 when we come back to school, so make sure that you're familiar with how to do each one of these 6 problems. Number 1. Cameron the baker takes 3.5 minutes to make a loaf of bread. She made loaves of bread for 63 minutes. How many loaves did she make? Write a multiplication and division equation and solve. So we need to do 3 things. All right, so I want you to think about what's happening here. So 63 minutes has gone by, and in that 63 minutes, Cameron has been making bread. And every 3.5 minutes, a new loaf is made. So we need to figure out how many 3.5 minutes are inside of 63. So we're going to do 63 divided by 3.5. And I always like to take my divisor and think how many of this one is in that one. How many of the divisor is in the dividend? Now, a great way to start whenever you have the division problem is to always start by drawing the dividend. So I'm going to start by drawing 63. And 63 is a lot to draw, so I'm going to actually do it in groups of 10. So I'm going to do 6 groups of 10. So right now I'm making 6 rows. All right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and then I'm going to break these into 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that's 60, and then I need 3 more. All right, there I've got 63. All right, now I need to figure out how many groups of 3.5 are inside of 63. So I'm going to circle groups of 3.5. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do half of that one. And then a half, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to continue to do that. 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. I'm making groups of 3.5. So this represents 3.5 minutes going by. And every time 3.5 minutes goes by, Cameron makes another loaf of bread. So each one of these groups represents 1 loaf of bread. 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3.5. 1, 2, 3. See, I'm going to make that half go with these 3. And then this half will go with those 3. There we go. And none were left over. That's nice. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18 groups. Now, what does that mean, 18 groups? Well, it means that when 63 minutes goes by, and every 3.5 minutes Cameron makes a loaf of bread, in 63 minutes she's made 18 loaves of bread. All right, so I've solved. I have my division equation. I need to write my multiplication equation. So 18 loaves of bread that each take 3.5 minutes means that I'll have a total of 63 minutes that Cameron is baking. All right, if you need to pause here to finish drawing, go ahead and do so. I'm going to move on to number 2. Carlos, the electrician, cut 5 pieces of wire that were equal in length. He used a total of 12 feet of wire to fix the electrical problem. How long in feet was each piece of wire he cut? Write a multiplication and division equation and solve. Okay, so I know that Carlos cut 5 pieces of wire. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 wires that he cut. 5 pieces. And then I know that all of the pieces he cut all together were 12 feet. So let's think about what we're doing here. We're taking this 12 feet and we cut it up into 5 pieces. That means some of this 12 feet belongs in that piece, some in that piece, some in that piece, some in that piece, and some in that piece. So I'm taking the 12 and I'm dividing it between 5 pieces of wire. So I need to ask myself how many 5s are inside of 12. Okay, so I'm going to start just like I draw every other problem, and I'm going to start by drawing my dividend. Draw the first number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and then I'm just going to make groups of 5 because I'm trying to figure out how many 5s are inside of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one group. So I have 2 full groups, and then I've got a couple people or a couple pieces left over. I have this piece and this piece left over. So that's 2 pieces out of, how many pieces did it take to make a group? It took 5 pieces to make a group, so that's 2 out of 5. So that means that's 2/5 of a group. 2/5. So if Carlos has 12 whole feet of wire and he cuts it up into 5 pieces, each piece is going to be 2 2/5 per piece of wire. Or if I want to duct tape that wire back together, I'm going to take all 5 pieces that are 2 2/5 feet. Should have put that up there. 2 2/5 feet for each 5 pieces, and I duct tape it back together. I'll be back where I started with 12 whole feet of wire. Great. If you need to, pause, otherwise go on to number 3. The 6th grade students at Oakdale Middle School are raising money for an end-of-year school field trip to the movie theater. So far, they've raised $210. But this $210, this is only 5/6 of the cost of the trip. It's not the whole cost of the trip yet. It's most of it, but it's not quite enough yet. How much does the entire trip cost? All right, so if we have a bucket of money that we're trying to fill up, and once we get that bucket of money all filled up, we'll have enough money to go on the movie theater trip. But right now it's not filled up. We only have 5/6 of this bucket of money filled up. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces out of 6. And that's $210. And this is 1/6. This is 1/6. 1/6. All these are sixths. So I just have 1/6 left to go to fill up the bucket. Well, if I do 210 divided by 5, divided by these 5 pieces, I'll know how much money is in each one of those pieces. So it's 210 divided by 5 is 42. So there's $42 here, here. Each of these sixths is $42. Okay. Now the only problem is they don't have this last sixth yet. So they've got $210 and they need to raise $42 more. And that will get them the total cost of their trip. And 210 plus 42 is $252 for the whole trip. And that's what our question was asking. If you want to look at the math behind this, we've got 210 divided by 5/6, which is 252. Or 252 times 5/6 is back where you started at $210, which is not quite enough for the whole trip. Almost. Their bucket of money is almost full. They can almost go to the movie theater. Let's go to number 4. Number 4. How many 2/3 are inside of 6? So we're going to start with 6, and we're going to figure out how many 2/3 is inside of there. So if we're figuring out how much of this is inside of this. All right, so I'm going to start by just how I do every other problem, drawing my dividend, drawing my 6. But I need to pause for just a second and think, what size do I need to draw my 6? Well, it's probably going to help if I draw it in thirds, because here in just a second, I'm going to need to make groups of thirds. So let's make this easy on ourselves and just go ahead and draw them in thirds. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to make groups of 2/3. So here's one group of 2/3, 2/3, 2/3. I'll keep going until I've used up everything or I can't make up any more. Oh, and it worked out perfectly. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 groups of 2/3 are in 6. So 6 divided by 2/3 equals 9. So what I've done here is I've taken my 6 and I've cut it up into size pieces that are 2/3, and there's 9 pieces. If I want to glue everything back together, I can. I just take all 9 pieces that are size 2/3, glue them back together, and I'm back where I started at 6. All right, let's go to number 5. 3/4 cups of sugar makes 5 batches of cookies. How much sugar do you need for each batch, for one batch? Write a multiplication problem, a division equation, draw a diagram, and solve. All right, so let's think. We have 3/4 cup of sugar. So all this is 3/4 of a cup. And with that 3/4 of a cup, I need to make 5 batches of cookies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm taking my 3/4 cup and I'm dividing it between 5 batches of cookies. So as in every problem, we're asking how much of 5 fits inside of 3/4. Just like we do in every other problem, we're going to start by drawing our dividend. So we're going to start and draw 3/4. I'm going to make 4/4. I'm going to color in 3 of them. 1, 2, 3/4. Okay. And then I'm comparing how much of that 3/4 or how much of 5 fits inside of 3/4. So I need to draw my 5. So I've got 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes, 5 holes. Okay, so what do I have? Well, I've got 3 pieces. 3 pieces out of how many total pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 pieces needed to make 5. So 3 pieces out of 20, that's 3/20. So when I have 3/4 cup of sugar and I want to divide it between 5 batches of cookies, each batch is going to require 3/20 of a cup per batch. Or if I use 3/20 cup of sugar for all 5 batches, so 5 of those, then that means I'm going to need a total of 3/4 of a cup of sugar to make all 5 batches. go on to our last problem. Number 6. Duncan fills the cafeteria ketchup dispenser from a big bottle that contains 5 1/2 gallons of ketchup. That amount of ketchup will fill 7 1/3 ketchup dispensers in the cafeteria. How many gallons of ketchup fit into one dispenser? So let's think about what's happening here. We have 7 1/3 dispensers in the cafeteria that are getting filled. So I'm going to draw that. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1/3. So I'm going to cut that into 3 pieces and get rid of 2 of them. So to fill up those 7 1/3 dispensers, it takes 5 1/2 gallons. So if we think about what's happening, some of this went into that dispenser, some of it went there. A little bit of it went into each dispenser until the 5 1/2 gallons of ketchup was all gone. So essentially what we're doing here is we're taking 5 1/2 and we're dividing it up between 7 1/3 dispensers. So we're asking how much of 7 1/3 fits inside of 5 1/2. Just like we do, we're going to start by drawing our dividend. So 5 1/2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2. 5 1/2. Okay, so I've got all 5, 1, 2, 5 1/2. I'm comparing that to how much 7 1/3 will fit inside of that. So I also need to have my 7 1/3. So I've got 5 1/2. I need to add to it until I get to 7 1/3. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1/3. Get rid of that and get rid of that. So I need to think to myself, how many pieces do I have here? So I've got, okay, so to make this a little easier to count up how many pieces I have, I'm going to go ahead and break everything into thirds. So let me break these into thirds real quick. Okay, so let's figure out how much we have shaded first. So count the shaded pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 1/2. So 16.5 are shaded out of how many total? So this is 16, so 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 16 1/2 out of 22 are shaded. Well, let's figure out how much that is. I'm going to double both of these, so I'm going to times by 2 so I can get rid of my half. So let's see what 16 1/2 times 2 is. So 16.5 times 2, 33. 33, and then 22 times 2 is 44. Perfect. So I know when I see double-digit numbers that I can divide by 11. So that's divided by 11, divided by 11. 33 divided by 11 is 3. 44 divided by 11 is 4. 3/4. So if I have 5 1/2 gallons of ketchup and I spread it between 7 1/3 containers, each one of these containers is going to have 3/4 of a gallon in it. 3/4. 3/4. 3/4, and so on. All those containers will have 3/4. So 5 1/2 divided by 7 1/3 equals 3/4 of a gallon per container. Or of course we could do 3/4 in each container, and there's 7 1/3 containers, and we pour it all back together in the big bucket, and we'll be back where we started with 5.5 gallons of ketchup.